And we're live, I think. Yes, it says live. So that means we're live now. This is Polygon Issuance number 62 for, what day is this? June 12th, 2015. I don't know what day it is. It seems like I know the day of the week. It's Friday, which is our typical Polygon day. So thanks everybody for joining us today. And we apologize for not having a show last week since our guest last week had bad weather in his area, and we're going to reschedule him when we can get a hold of him, along with several other people. So, but anyway, our guest tonight decided he wasn't going to go to the meeting in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is the AMS Broadcast Conference, hosted at the beautiful Raleigh Convention Center, where our guest went to school at North Carolina State University. He's a Wolfpack person. So he's also a native North Carolinian. I believe he is. That's what it says here. I think it says you are North Carolinian. But Jason Myers,
that's right.
Yes, Jason Myers, who is the chief meteorologist, I believe he's the chief meteorologist. If he's not, then he should be, of WTPQ, gosh, that's a mouthful, which is Channel 36, the ABC affiliate in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm getting it. I'm going to get it out. It's a tongue twister. But he's joining us live from his studio or his weather center or both. So how's the weather over in Lexington right now?
Good, Jeff. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for having me on, by the way. And weather today has been kind of hot and humid. Yesterday we hit 90 degrees. That was the first time that we've hit 90 degrees so far for 2015. So definitely feeling like summertime. On average here in the area, we're used to seeing temperatures around 82. Today we hit 89 degrees, so we were back to near 90 once again. So we're looking at above average temperatures to continue through this weekend into next week, with highs mainly in the mid to upper 80s. So anywhere from about 85 to 90 degrees through next week. And so, yeah, feeling like summertime. The pool is a great place to be at this time of the year.
And the interesting thing about up here in Iowa, where I'm at, it's been cloudy today, drizzly, some rain here and there, and in the 60s to low 70s. So the pools are not even open because they have the limit 70 degrees. If it's below 70, pools are closed. So yeah. That didn't happen today. And of course, between when we did our test, because I did our test with our guest last night, between that test and right now, there was severe flash flooding in eastern Iowa last evening, especially around Cedar Rapids, which is only about 25 miles southwest of me, where we had 4 feet of water on the roads, cars, stranded motorists, water rescues, typical Iowa summertime thunderstorms pretty much at night. So it happened last year in June. It's happened numerous times, but people just don't want to turn around and move away from floodwaters because there were so many reports of people driving into floodwaters last night over there. So, but here I had about a little under 2.5 inches of rain. Most of it fell within about an hour and a half. Thunder, lightning, a lot of wind. But then, and I made him remark, and I'm rattling again off, but there was flash flood warnings for like 10 or 15 counties, it seemed like. I think it was only like 9 or 10. My county was not in one, but every county surrounding me to the west, south, and east was. So evidently I didn't get any flooding, even though there was reports in the county flooding. So, oh well. But anyway, our guest,
it's just crazy. All the flooding that's been going on in Texas and Oklahoma, places like that, and it seems like kind of one round after another. And it looked like for you guys, you might gonna get a little bit more of that one round after another over the next couple of days.
Well, the system that came through was the remnants of what was once the Eastern Pacific Hurricane Blanca. When you get remnant hurricanes and they come into the Midwest, and even if they came into, let's say, into the bluegrass in Kentucky, they're going to dump rain. I don't care what they look like. If it's sheared and looks really kind of, it's not going to be circular like a hurricane. It's going to be sheared because of the mid-latitudes, but it's going to dump rain no matter what. And it's going to dump a lot of rain.
Yeah.
And it did. So, and it dumped it in a short period of time. So I mean, right now, pretty much the active weather is from New England through the Midwest, north of you, especially Indiana, down through Illinois type stuff, and then back into Oklahoma, Texas. Back, they're getting severe weather again, so if they need any more rain. But I think Oklahoma and Texas hasn't had rain in what, 7 days or something like that. So they're probably desperate for rain again. The lakes are probably all dried up now, evidently. That's sarcasm, but
Yeah,
anyway.
we had, interestingly, here we had a lot of rainfall in April and ended up having one of the wettest Aprils on record. I mean, part of it was because we would just have kind of one round after another, but we had specifically one day where we just had a lot of rain that fell at the Bluegrass Airport in Lexington, where we, kind of keep our climate. And so that kind of maybe skewed it a little bit. But March and April, we had a lot of precipitation. And then May, we ended up 3 inches below normal. And so far for the month now, we've only had about 1.33 inches. And I think we're about 0.5 inch below normal as well. So, yeah, it's gotten a little bit drier for us. We could use a little bit more rain. But it looks like here we're going to have a little bit more activity next week.
Yeah.
Starting to get a little bit more of that Gulf moisture moving back in.
The typical summertime afternoon thunderstorms that pop up and die down.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're gonna have a little bit more moisture to work with too. So we're gonna have a better chance for some really efficient rainmakers, and any storm that forms could really put down a lot of rainfall as well.
So we didn't just want to discuss the current weather with our guest because he's very busy. He's on the clock, by the way. So we start like we always do with what got your interest in weather. And what I saw was it was building a weather station in 3rd grade. So I'll ask, why did you want to build a weather station in 3rd grade?
Okay. Well, it was a science project for school, and so we had to build it. We had to do a science project for school, and ended up doing weather, and yeah, that's when I kind of made like a homemade weather station, and there's a local. That was when I lived around Charlotte, North Carolina. Went to the Discovery Place, which is like a science museum there, and they had a class on weather, and so learned a little bit about weather there. And ended up getting the blue ribbon for the science fair with the weather. So I just had an interest, I guess, at that age when I started really like learning a little bit more about the weather. So I guess my mom kind of helped out with helping me learn about the weather, kind of doing that together because I was in 3rd grade. But yeah, ever since then, just seeing kind of nature and really being able to enjoy the beauty of weather outdoors. That was always what interested me. When I think it was about 10 years old or 12, I was at the beach, Ocean Isle Beach in North Carolina, and a friend of mine, I was with my friend's family, and we went out to the beach, and we saw a water spout, which was amazing, and we ran back to try to get the camera because that was back when you didn't have cell phones with cameras, and ran back to try to get a camera. By the time we had gotten back, it dissipated. It was well offshore, but it was beautiful to see. So it's just, things like that. It just sparked my interest in weather. And then in high school, just really got to that point, where it's like, if you could do anything you wanted to do, what would you do? And really had an interest in meteorology and weather. But then also became really interested in the broadcast part of it, and had gotten to know in the broadcasting field, Van Denton, the chief meteorologist at Fox 8 in High Point and North Carolina, the High Point, Winston-Salem, Greensboro market. And so Van Denton, I ended up interning with him later in college when I was at NC State. But so just kind of those different events kind of shaped, I guess, my interest in weather more and more. And, it just kind of came down, hey, if you could have a job that you would enjoy doing every day and you get paid for it, isn't that perfect? And so anything that was related to weather kind of is where I wanted to go. So
now, what I can remember, and you're fairly young, I would assume, that unless you're younger than I am, I'm 34, but So, were you around at the time of the big tornado outbreak that occurred in, I think it was 1984? That was further east from Charlotte, I believe. But do you remember that somewhat?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember that specifically. I mean, of course, the living in North Carolina, kind of the blizzard of '93 that affected us. So that was a lot of fun to play in with snow. So that was a big event. Hurricane Hugo, that was a really big event for the Charlotte area because I was living in Charlotte when that came through in '85, I think it was. And sorry, I enjoy
Hugo was
history and weather,
Hugo.
but trying to remember all the dates is tough sometimes. But I remember I think it was like September 20th or 21st, somewhere around there, that it came across. 1985, I think.
It
And
was 89.
was that
It was in
set?
19. Yeah, it was in 1989 as
Oh,
Hugo.
89. Sorry. Yeah, I messed that up. Sorry. My brother was born in 85. So, and that came on shore, at Charleston, then moved pretty much right over kind of the Charlotte area. And I vividly remember that. I mean, you could just hear the trees snapping off and breaking that night because it came over more during the nighttime hours. So that made it a little scary as well, just because of happening at nighttime and you could hear the trees falling around you. Thankfully, we didn't have any major damage to our house, but with all the trees falling down, that was definitely scary. And so definitely remember that. That was a big impact. So storm. But yeah, 89. Sorry.
So you decided to go to NC State to go to school for your meteorology. So why did you go there instead of some better places like Oklahoma? Because everybody in meteorology seemingly wants to go to Oklahoma or Florida State if they're into tropical meteorology. So what chose you to go to North Carolina State?
I think just part of it being from North Carolina. I mean, I liked NC State as a school in general already, and the fact that they visited it because it was just down the road from where I lived, and so uh, I also looked at UNC Asheville. They have a meteorology program there, and UNC Charlotte as well. And I just really enjoyed NC State. I liked the fact that it was a bigger school, part of the ACC. That was kind of fun as well. Growing up as a kid in North Carolina, it's usually UNC, Duke, NC State, or Wake Forest. Yeah, of course, a lot of other great schools in North Carolina, but with all the great schools that are in North Carolina, I really didn't look outside it as much. And just went to NC State and was kind of like, this is where I want to be. So didn't really feel like I needed to compare programs too much because it just ended up being where I wanted to be.
So talk about what the NC State program was then, which by the sounds of it was probably not that long ago because you're somewhat young. But talk about how it was then to now. Is there really much difference?
Yeah, I graduated in 2003, and I think the biggest difference that I've heard of, because I haven't seen exactly what all the courses may have changed, but I think they have added a little bit more focus on those that are interested in broadcast meteorology. Because when I was coming through, still it was very much focused on the research part of meteorology, which is of course very important. But you really had to. I got, in addition to meteorology, a communication concentration. So I tried to get as many communication classes as I could take, knowing that I wanted to try the broadcast side of things. I also had a kind of change in the story here, but I also had a real interest in the military, and really thought seriously about going the military route. And I was in Air Force ROTC before you had to, I guess, sign a full commitment between your sophomore and junior year. And so I was in Air Force ROTC and really, really liked it a lot. I mean, the military, especially in the ROTC programs, they teach you a lot of leadership, public speaking, how to, write, just different things that would help you in any job. And I just really appreciated their professionalism, their leadership. So I've always had a real respect for the military and always had an interest in the military. So that was something that I really thought long and hard about. I did have the interest in broadcast meteorology and decided to go that route. But to help out with that, took as many communication classes as I could, presentational speaking, public speaking, things like that. Even took a class at Meredith College, which is right down the street from NC State. It's an all-girls school, and they had voice and articulation. So I took one of those classes, probably one of my favorite classes, actually. And then went to UNC Chapel Hill. They had a journalism school there and took some journalism classes, and they had a program called Carolina Week, which is a student-produced news show. So we went, or NC State students that were in meteorology, they were interested in broadcast meteorology, would go over to UNC and do the weather for their student news show once a week. And NC State at the time just didn't have, I guess, as much of a program geared toward broadcast meteorology. But I think from what I've heard, they have, I think Nate Johnson, he was actually a couple of years before me. He's at WREL right now. I think he's kind of helped also with the communications over there and maybe helped out with some of those classes. But I think they've offered that a little bit more, just something to offer for those that are interested in broadcast meteorology. So, but other than that, I don't know how much more it has changed, than where it was when I was there as well.
So you talked about interning at Fox 8, I think it's WGHP, in the Winston-Salem, Greensboro, High Point market. So what was it like to intern there? It's a fairly good-sized market, the Greensboro market.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'm sorry, the audio was kind of going out a little bit. So you were asking just what was it like?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, great station. Van Denton was great. He's an NC State graduate as well, so we had that in common. I had known Van from just his family we went to the same church, and so got to know him through that in the High Point area, and just really enjoyed the internship there. I mean, the internships, of course, are so important because it gives you that hands-on experience. It gives you a chance to actually see what the job, does. And that's so important for any job. If you, have an interest in whatever as a student, to get an internship, that way you can see exactly what that job entails. And if that's a job that you would like to do for long term. And so the internship was a good way to also get some practice with the green screen and just to record some weather casts. And to be able to use that for resume tape, you have to have a resume tape, to send off for a broadcast job. So having that was really important. And so that was a great experience. I would work during the day and then go in the evening. And, that's the only thing about TV internships. Unfortunately, they're not paid. So, a lot of times, sometimes you have to balance that with working another part-time job during the summer and trying to get to your internship. You get a little bit of experience as well, but it's a great, worthwhile experience to have for sure. You have to have it, I think.
Now I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because you mentioned this. Do you show, or do you still have that first resume tape that you made from you when you were the intern, and do you show it to your interns now?
Sorry, I think the audio is going out. Can you repeat that again?
Okay. Well, we'll see what this does now. Okay, that first intern tape that you made in Greensboro.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Do you still have it, and do you show your current interns that now?
That's a good idea. I guess I think I still have it somewhere, but I think it's on probably like VHS or something like that. So, or some sort of, beta tape or something. So finding the archaic equipment to show it might be the challenge. But yeah, that's worthwhile. I know some places like Costco or wherever can transfer it to, a DVD or something, or maybe even a flash card. So that would be probably good to try to do sometime. That's a good idea, actually. But yeah, I think I have it somewhere in a box of like early tapes that I did. and those would be kind of funny to look at, I think. So.
Oh, so it'd be like a blooper reel. I'll have to
Yeah,
repeat. Okay, I don't have to repeat it.
no, no, yeah, it's just but being able to see it, you can say, oh wow, that's where I started at, and it's for anybody starting off, it just takes time to grow. So, but I think that would probably help, yeah, for interns to see that, to say that's kind of where you started at, so something fun to look at.
So did that, what sounds like to be a bloopery type resume tape, how did it get you your first job in television after you graduated from NC State?
I think when I made my first resume tape that I sent out, that ended up, going to Abilene, Texas at KRBC, the NBC affiliate in Abilene. I think it was a combination of maybe some Fox 8 tapings I did, and also Carolina Week tapings that I did at UNC Chapel Hill for their student show. So I think it was kind of both, maybe. But yeah, I need to see if I can find that resume tape somewhere. So that'd be fun to look at.
So what was it like out there in Abilene, Texas?
Yeah, really liked it. It was really funny. When I arrived there, I was the fourth NC State graduate that was in the market. And well, that's kind of weird because NC State's, again, not known to be maybe a broadcast school. But Nate Johnson, who I've already mentioned, is at WRL right now. He was there at K Texas. Sonia Stevens, who's in Charleston right now. She was at the CBS affiliate KTAB, and then Brandon Rector, who I think Brandon's in Nebraska now, I forget, but he was at KRBC with me as the morning meteorologist. So it was kind of funny. Brandon and Nate were a couple of years ahead of Sonia and I, but Sonia and I both graduated together. So we were in meteorology classes together.
So what was it like to be in Abilene, Texas? It's nothing like North Carolina.
Yeah, we really love the people there. Great folks. It it We weren't there that long, just because for your first job, you're barely making a living. It's kind of hard to live off just what they're paying you. So it's more for the experience. But we were far from family in North Carolina. My wife is also from North Carolina. I was married at that point too, and we got married right after school. And but we really liked it. It was a good experience, and Abilene was just great folks there. A nice town. Of course, high school football is king there. But weather is big, with severe weather sometimes as well. And so you've got Dyess Air Force Base. So with the Air Force Base there too, there's still plenty happening, but there's not a lot outside of Abilene. It still takes about 3.5 hours maybe to get to Dallas, Texas. So to get to a big city, it's still a couple of hours away. But yeah, it was a great experience. Really liked being in Abilene for the time that I was there.
Was there any events that you can remember that you had to work in while you were in Abilene?
Nothing too crazy or specific. I mean, we did have just some severe events where we had some tornadoes, and some that got really close to the town of Abilene and Dyess Air Force Base, happening at night, where even there was a picture video just showing a funnel cloud at night that looked kind of scary, kind of right around Dyess Air Force Base, but nothing that was too crazy there locally. But that was also the time that Katrina was coming in, and it didn't have a direct impact on us, but it was still such a big news event, a big weather event. That was memorable when I was in Abilene. So when Hurricane Katrina hit, the New Orleans area, there's a lot of stories of local groups going down to help out with the cleanup after Hurricane Katrina. But that was just a kind of an active hurricane season for the Gulf of Mexico too. So that was definitely memorable.
So how did you end up getting back to the East Coast? Was that where you wanted to be, closer to home than being stuck in the plains of Texas?
Well, again, really liked Abilene. And we there's a family there, the McFall family, that they became like family to us. We love them; they're great friends of ours, and found a great church there. So Abilene was a great experience. Yet it was tough being far away from family. We were, I think it's almost like a 15-hour at least drive from Texas to North Carolina. So you just don't see family as often. So that's of course tough. But coming to Richmond was, moving back a little bit closer to family, and was really excited about working there. And we ended up just, falling in love with Richmond as well. Richmond was a great city. That's kind of where we raised our kids, and we were there for a while. Worked with John Bernier there as the chief meteorologist, Matt Denard as the morning meteorologist, and really learned a lot during those years working under John and Matt. Matt had worked as a chief meteorologist in New York, and both of them were just really great to work with. So that was a great experience. Very happy there as well. And coming to Lexington, it was a chief meteorologist position, which was a great position, but left on great terms there in Richmond. But John and Matt were planning on staying there for a long time. So I think I could have stayed there for a long time as well. And we definitely have many, many great friends there that we still keep up with. So we still actually go back to Richmond to visit. We actually went back to Abilene to visit when we were in Virginia too. So every place we've been at, we've really just enjoyed getting to know the community and the people there. And they become like family, even though our family might not be, real close. But being in Richmond was nice because we were close enough to North Carolina where we could come home on the weekends for birthdays or special occasions or holidays. And we just Richmond area is a great area to be in too, and it's you get a good 4 seasons of weather: winter weather, hurricanes, the heat, humidity. So you get a little bit of both. You've got the mountains, the beach, and so you get a little bit of all types of different weather being right there in Richmond.
Now, when you with the Richmond market being fairly close to the ocean, fairly close to the mountains, and you spoke of this, you have pretty much any weather except more or less not much severe weather. It's not a real big severe weather market compared to, say, Abilene, Texas.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they'll get times where you'll get some active periods, or you'll have a hurricane come in and cause a lot of damage. So there's definitely those times, and we did have some, wall to wall. We had, it seems like, a lot of just tropical storms. Gaston came right into Richmond, caused a lot of flooding, and that pretty much was kind of fizzling out, but it just dumped a lot of rainfall in Richmond, and ended up, causing some major flooding damage to the downtown area. Then you have, I'm trying to think the specific date, April 2011. That was a little bit more of an active day for North Carolina. As a weekend, it was a Saturday, but had a lot of tornadoes that touched down.
Yep.
That was a very active
April
day.
16th.
Yeah, I need to take like a weather diary so I can write down all the dates, keep up with them. Seems like they all kind of run together after a while. Sorry. I have so many numbers going on in my head, I guess. But so there, it wasn't as maybe crazy as what happens in Oklahoma or someplace like that, but you'd get active periods, but generally the weather is pretty nice. I mean, it's maybe not like a San Diego or something, but it's it gives you a good good challenge with forecasting. Snow is always a good challenge because you have people that will have in your market just rain, other people that has sleet, a mix, and snow. And that seemed to be almost consistent every time you have a snow event. You get typically something closer to the coast, it's going to be rain. Viewers that are maybe, the dividing lines right over Richmond. And then you've got people off to the west, closer to the mountains with higher elevation. They're going to get more snow. And you can get, more freezing rain or sleet type of events as well. So that made it good and challenging at times.
So when you speak of the time in Richmond, was pretty much the big events hurricanes that flooded the city or winter storms that would dump a bunch of snow that you weren't expecting because there's seemingly nothing else that goes on in Richmond but hurricanes and winter storms?
Oh, the other days, yeah, it's probably nice.
Thunderstorm too.
Yeah. I mean, they do have great weather there, so that's one of the nice things about it. It's a nice place to makes it a nice place to live. They typically, it's not too crazy, and I would say Kentucky's similar. Depending on where you're at in Kentucky, here in central and eastern Kentucky, we can get some, severe weather outbreaks as well. But maybe not as bad as more into western Kentucky when you get a little bit more in that flatter topography and into the Midwest, you have a little bit more activity. But being on that east of the Appalachian Mountains, it really does protect you a lot. I mean, I noticed that quite a bit since being in Lexington, just like in Texas, the dry line really kind of dictates, we're going to have storms firing up and things like that. But in Kentucky, those cold fronts just hold together really well. And, they seem to kind of break apart, though, when they start moving in more to central or eastern Kentucky sometimes. But, just being east of the Appalachian Mountains, that seems the mountains break it up a lot of times, not always. It sometimes holds together really well through the mountains and ends up being, pretty messy. And you sometimes have a little bit better, moisture coming in off the coast as well. So you can, snowfall amounts can be a real challenge. You get kind of the nor'easters, in a sense, and you have a low pressure system coming right off the East Coast. And, you can really get some major snowfall amounts. So being there, 2009, 2010, those were active winter seasons and in Richmond. So it's everywhere you go. It can have its specific challenges, but overall, yeah, it's not crazy weather.
So you've been in Lexington a couple years, and it seems like, from what I've noticed, it seems that Kentucky is getting a lot more exciting weather. For example, this past winter, it seemed like Kentucky was getting tons of heavy snow, which they never usually get much of. And they were getting all this excitement that just seems to be very atypical for Kentucky. Have you kind of noticed that, even though you've only been in Lexington a couple of years?
Yeah. I've been here for 2 years now, and they have been active winters. I mean, cold winters and active, and again, trying to go back into my memory bank. But winter, we really, hit that cold spell in January and kind of stayed in January and February. This season, it was just a lot later. It really wasn't, we got some snow, light snow early on in November, and it looked, we had some really cold weather, and it was like, oh wow, this is going to be brutal winter. And we were, forecasting it to be an active winter and to be, higher amounts of snow. But then December came around, and even kind of January, and they weren't as impactful. So then you're like, okay, we're starting to run out of time here for the winter. Are we really going to have an active winter like what we were thinking? And then February came around, and even into March, and that's when it really got cranking with the cold weather and the snow. And yeah, I mean, we had 17 inches or a little 17.1 inches in early March. That was March the 4th and the 5th this past year. And so that was really active for Lexington to pick up 17 inches of snow anytime is impactful,
Yeah.
but especially for the first part of March. And so that, you know, when you have those March storms, sometimes you have, uh, you know, a lot of snow. And then by the end of the week, you've got 70-degree weather. And so it's all melting. But you know, it was impactful for a couple of days there. It made it a little grueling to be out and about or traveling.
Is that kind of like the big bugaboo that occurs in forecasting, especially in the early spring, that you could either have a big snow that dumps 17 inches in Lexington, you could have severe weather, which I've seen in March 2nd, 2012 comes to mind, or you could have
Right.
something completely different where you have a cold pool coming out of Canada and the temperatures are in the single digits and teens in the morning and highs maybe barely break 30.
Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely get some crazy weather here for sure. I mean, just last week for the first few days of June, well, even it happened for a few days we had in May, where we were just, it seemed like the coldest spot in the United States. But we had a high of 62 June 1st, 60 the 2nd, 67 June the 3rd. And then the next day hit 82, and we've been in the 80s to near 90 degrees since then. So, yeah, you get some just crazy days where, you know, your best efforts and whatever the models are saying, just for whatever reason, you know, you look around the region too, and everything else looks kind of normal, but for whatever reason, you know, for different reasons, Central Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky has some, you know, abno- uh, uh, um, abnormal weather. So it can be, yeah, it can be a challenge with the forecasting and getting it correct sometimes. But yeah, we definitely try to look at, you know, how we're doing with the forecast as far as where the models are forecasting, how close or far away we are to what actually happens. And so you try to make those changes, but there's sometimes where it's just didn't see it coming. Nobody saw it coming, you know, models didn't either. So
So
definitely to get surprises.
so when you have like a 17-inch snow like you had in March, I'd wonder if you predicted that right, or if anybody in Lexington predicted it right, or the Weather Service for that matter. How many
I already
people how many people blamed you or your competitors that you didn't get it right? You should all be fired because you got it all wrong.
Um, well, there have been stories of you know, people saying maybe a dusting, and it ended up being a lot more. But you know, actually, as crazy as it was definitely, I felt like, forecasted well. Um, but the models were, you know, a week out were showing it to be pretty significant. Then when you got more closer to about like 5 days out, it didn't show as being real impactful. But it happened more on a, let's see, I think it was, I have to look at the calendar here exactly the days, but I remember it was really over the weekend that it was all of a sudden it was like, okay, this is going to be huge, and that it's going to be, you know, something that's going to you know, be an impactful event. And I remember uh, telling Mark Stitz, our weekend meteorologist at the time, you know, just like it felt weird putting 12 plus inches there. You know, we weren't saying like, you know, 17 or 20 or 22, and some places ended up getting that much. It wasn't widespread, but, you know,
Yeah.
we had the heaviest snow bands. But I remember how it felt really weird, just, yeah, making it, you know, the models were showing it, and they actually did a pretty good job actually with forecasting it. But
Yeah.
still, you know, you just it's hard to say, is that really going to happen? You know,
Yeah.
you really don't know when it comes to snow sometimes until it starts happening. You know, but that happened. It seems like, yeah, it was the started on the March the 4th, which is a Wednesday, and ended up putting down 7 inches. So it was really that Wednesday into Thursday. So the weekend ahead, we really, I guess, started honing in on a little bit more. And then as the week went on, I feel like we had time to really prepare people. Since it happened kind of later in the work week, people were watching the news. They kept up with it. Because sometimes that happens too, you know, things happen over the weekend. People maybe haven't been keeping up with the weather forecast because they've been busy or traveling. And then all of a sudden they're surprised when Monday comes around and, you know, there's a big weather event or something.
So when you had this snow, it is Kentucky. They don't get much snow, especially big snows. And I can remember this because they were talking about it up here, saying Kentucky got more snow. Kentucky got more snow. This was back in March and whatnot. And I'm thinking, well, why are they getting all the snow? Because we got enough snow. We up here in eastern Iowa, we had pretty much average snow. It seemed like Kentucky was getting like twice normal or even more. Because I don't know what the normal snowfall for Lexington is. It ain't 17 inches from one storm. I know that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Typically, we only get about a foot, and so the past 2 seasons, let's see, last season winter, I think we got about 27, and this season we got about 40. So it was, you know, more than twice as much last season, and about 3 to, I guess, almost 4 times as much, depending on what county you live in too, because some counties receive more than others in our viewing area as well.
Especially the further east into the mountains you get, they'll always get more snow.
Yeah, and that's what makes a really good, you know, challenge here locally for forecasting snow. I mean, it's kind of the opposite. You know, the further east you go, you get a little bit higher elevation. But you've got valleys, and most people live in the valleys, and so there's elevation issues sometimes you're forecasting for. And so our area pretty much is Lexington metro area is kind of the northwest quadrant of our viewing area. So everybody, you know, really across central and eastern Kentucky can watch our market stations. But pretty much that goes down to the Tennessee line, you know, almost over to the West Virginia line, and almost to the southeast with the Virginia line as well, and almost north to Ohio. And but Frankfort, which is right between Louisville and Lexington, is kind of the dividing line where you get into the Louisville TV station markets.
So, and I thought of this question when I was asking the other one. Compared to the blizzard of '93 when you were living in Charlotte as a kid, was the snowfall that occurred this year similar to that in the basis of big snows in places that don't get big snows? Was it similar in your aspects from?
I mean, I guess if you look at it from an individual standpoint, you know, there's some similarities as far as just like if you lived in some areas just north of Lexington that got 22 inches, it was a huge impact. But you know, that was also looking at it as a kid, and when you look at it more from a scientific standpoint, you know, that was a much larger system and a much bigger impacting system for a lot of states, whereas ours is more of a little bit more of a mesoscale local event versus more of a synoptic event, I guess, with March '93. But you know, from a local standpoint, it was definitely impactful. I don't know that it was, you know, maybe as bad as what would someplace in North Carolina in '93. Because when you say, well, you know, how you compare it, well, it could be snowfall amounts. That could be one thing, but it's, you know, how is treating the roads, and is that state prepared to treat the roads, or is that state not able to handle treating the roads, and technology and things like that too that changes. Were people prepared? Were people not prepared? So as far as being able, you know, I feel like the March '93, that's something, of course, it's in the textbooks, but I don't know that this will be maybe a textbook storm as much as something that local National Weather Service offices and local TV stations will talk about some,
Now, do you have good relationships with the Weather Service offices that your DMA covers? I think it's Jackson, Louisville, and I'm not sure if the Wilmington, Ohio office covers your far northern counties or not. It may be too far north.
Yeah, that's a good question. We've got, Louisville and Jackson National Weather Service, and awesome offices. Really, really like them a lot. Respect them a lot. They our viewing area is kind of split, where half of our viewing area is in kind of the Jackson National Weather Service. The other half, which includes the Lexington metro area, is in the Louisville warning counties. And then, Wilmington, Ohio their counties pretty much go into northern Kentucky, which northern Kentucky mainly watches the Cincinnati TV market. So once you get north of about Scott County, Georgetown, Harrison County, that's when you get more into the Cincinnati TV station market. But even Wilmington, Ohio, I mean, they come to Lexington, even though the Louisville, they think have a good relationship with their local Louisville TV stations, but they make a real effort to come to Lexington to meet with us. If they do, they do Skywarn events in our area, and they'll ask us to come out with them. In fact, the National Weather Service in Louisville, I think they're the ones that started the NWS chat, or kind of maybe the early form of that. And then that's now become what it is with the NWS chat. At least that's what I heard in talking to some of the National Weather Service folks. But John Gordon over there at National Weather Service in Louisville, Sean Hurley in Jackson National Weather Service, Tony Edwards in Jackson as well. Just great guys. Joe Sullivan in Louisville. So they really are really good to work with. And the National Weather Service, I'd say one thing I've seen from both Jackson and Louisville is they've gotten really good at social media. They use Twitter, and that's just become another avenue for people to be able to send pictures and show storm damage and things like that to them. So they're really good at social media. So I feel like they're really good at making new things happen. I know that I forget the office in Birmingham that's doing the TV station almost. They're going to have like a green screen, or is that? So, I mean, they don't have anything like that I know of, but they are really good with just being kind of forward thinking and really trying to have a good relationship with the community and with the local meteorologists. And so they do a great job of communicating with us when we're in severe weather and being responsive to being able to talk on National Weather Service chat. Because I know I've heard some folks say that they have a hard time maybe talking with the National Weather Service, but I haven't had anything but positive dealings with Louisville and Jackson.
So then there's another topic that I discuss with you. There's a lot of people that are not coming to you or the TV stations or whatever. They're going to go to their smartphone and get the weather forecast from that app, be it an app that you can get on the App Store or the native app. So why should they come to you or any competitor or any TV station, period, to get a forecast?
Yeah, it's, I'm sorry, it sounded like the audio was kind of coming in and out though, but were you asking why should they come to a TV station to get the forecast?
Yes.
It is a challenge. I think that is a real challenge for everyone, is, making that connection to the viewer in a way, or the TV industry, I should say, making that connection with the viewer. More and more, they're not looking at their clocks and saying, hey, the news is getting ready to start, I'm going to sit down and watch it or something. If they do turn it on in the evenings, maybe they're watching TV prime time, and then they continue to watch the 11 o'clock news. I think the 5 and 6 o'clock are a little bit more challenging, just because people are still getting home. So TV stations are having to, I think, they're expanding newscasts. They're having 7 o'clock newscasts and because people are turning on the TV as they're getting ready or getting breakfast and just want to see what the latest news headlines are, what the weather is, what the traffic is before they head out to work. But most of the time, even with TV, people are rolling out of bed, first thing checking their phone, and they're getting their daily news from their phone, and Twitter. Use those forms of social media, just like the National Weather Service as well, and use Twitter and use Facebook. I think there's always things I can improve upon, but I think all of us can improve upon with social media and just being able to reach out to that viewer. But I think that's going to be a real challenge for the TV industry in the future. And it's if the TV industry doesn't make some changes, I think, unfortunately, it's going to continue to see downsizing, and the future could look a little bleak. So I'm hoping that as an industry that we'll continue to think about from a viewer standpoint, how can we reach them? And TV stations, live streaming newscasts, things with severe weather, being able to watch. To be able to watch TV on your phone or be able to watch live TV, or if you have severe weather, I think that's really going to be key is, where, and cell phones are pretty much kind of a tool that you can do so much on, and to be able to, if you can watch live severe weather coverage from your phone while you're in your safe part of your house, that's going to be huge, to be able to, and I think, we need to just keep being able to give viewers information that they wouldn't maybe be able to get from just social media as well, to give them a reason to want to watch. Because I think there's always going to be an aspect of TV. But as far as TV news, in the past, I think we've gotten past that golden age of TV, and now there's just so many choices. There's so many different avenues for people to get their information that, the piece of the pie has gotten a lot smaller for local TV stations.
So when you think about it, do you think you're still going to have a job in the industry in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Will you be able to retire from a broadcast TV meteorologist job?
That's a thought I think we all kind of have to think about. And I think even got a weather intern here with me, Taylor, and I was just telling her how it's really important to have a plan B, and that could be maybe going to school longer, getting your master's, and being able to teach at a community college. Doesn't have to be meteorology; it could be communications, or it could be math or science or whatever. So, just having whatever that plan B is, I think is really important. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that being able to retire with a TV station is going to be possible. I mean, in 30 years, the TV industry has changed a lot just in the past 30 years. And so 30 more years, I think it's going to look very different. And that's where, I think TV needs to become something that's just streamlined with mobile devices, and that just being able to have TV more accessible on a mobile device, I think is going to be really the key, because people would like to, I think, watch TV. It's just you got to make it easy for them. They don't, people aren't going to work hard. They're going to get what's easiest, and what's easiest right now might be Facebook or whatever online. But if they can see something happening live and see live weather, I mean, they could see, you can pull up apps and all that type of stuff. But if you can see somebody telling you about that, then I think that's pretty big. So, TV stations have gotten 24/7 with TV, but in the future it might be 24/7 streaming on your mobile device that you can watch it anytime on a mobile device, you know.
So when weather is seemingly 24/7 and everybody wants the weather now, how do you time manage yourself between trying to do your forecast on TV, answering emails, and doing hangouts and all this other stuff? How do you manage your time between that and having a family?
How do I manage my time during the day with just all this different stuff going on?
Yes.
Yeah, it just makes for a long day, really. I mean, the key is just making sure that you have time to do a good forecast. I think is really important. You know, the end result is what are you what are you showing people when they're watching on TV? You know, and so making sure you're prepared, you have a forecast, making sure it's accurate, making sure your graphics are, you know, all together. But yeah, it's, you know, whether you're, you know, doing the evening or the morning news, it's very active. You just constantly have things you're working on, and you know, being stopped to do a tease, or you know, update radio or update the web or send out some sort of social media update. I think the morning news is more hopping sometimes because you're just constantly going from show to show, and it can be very busy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just having it can be some long hours in TV. But just having that time to put in a good forecast initially at the very beginning is, I think, what's important.
So, ooh, excuse me. So when you do, let's say, severe weather coverage, I would assume you go wall to wall, correct?
Sorry, it sounded like it kind of went out with the audio. So when severe weather's coming, what was it you're asking?
Do you go wall to wall?
It depends on what's happening. Typically, uh, we're not going to go wall to wall if it's not in our viewing area, because it might dissipate by the time it gets to our viewing area, which that happens frequently too. It can be really nasty off to our west, but then it hits the Ohio River and it's kind of fizzling out as it's gotten maybe past Louisville. Um, so in those circumstances, that's when if we're not in a newscast, we're sending out social media updates, and you know, so people know what's going on. But people get very angry if you cut into their programming and you don't have anything good to say. If you have something that's good to say and it's severe weather and it's happening, and you know, you've got a tornado or something like that, but if it's not happening at their house, you know, a lot of people, they're like, you know, they could care less about something that's happening in some other town 100 miles away, because they want to watch whatever program that is, you know. So you have to be careful. But yeah, if you can tell people, and it's maybe during a commercial break or something like that, then that I could see as being beneficial. But going wall to wall for something that hasn't reached your area, no, not until it really gets into our area. But we do try to give people a heads up with hopefully the forecast, hopefully through social media, you know, and maybe having maybe cut in for a commercial break just to say, hey, here's what's going on. But yeah, typically when we have an event coming, you can see it from the west, timing it all out. I mean, we're just sending regular social media updates so people can keep up with us as far as what's going on, and kind of see it unfold with those social media updates.
So how do you deal with those people that want to complain about you cut off the NBA finals for a tornado warning in wherever? And I don't care about those people. What do you
Yeah.
those people?
Well, it does. It's not just viewers. It's, you know, your sales team or management. Sometimes they're, you know, you can feel like it's just a no-win situation. You're either not doing enough severe weather coverage, or you're doing too little. You know, it's just finding that balance is what's key. And then, you know, and some stations have a, you know, policy where they give us the flexibility of us making the call, but um, uh, you know, I uh, I don't totally just blow off whatever, you know, some person saying, you know, if somebody's complaining, and you just understand that maybe somebody's complaining, but maybe there's some truth to it. So it's good to at least hear them out, and maybe we don't need to do a lot of severe weather coverage from a severe thunderstorm warning that maybe isn't really producing a whole lot of anything. But if it's a tornado warning, that's a different story. And I think I don't really know of anybody that's ever complained, since I've been here at least, from doing cut-ins with a tornado warning.
Yeah,
they understand that. And if they do complain, I mean, we just say, well, this is, we by law have to go on there to tell people about a tornado warning. It's important to, if people's lives or properties on the line. So, yeah, I mean, there's always going to be somebody complaining, but we do try to be respectful of people enjoying the program, and try not to maybe cut in during the program, but cut in more like commercial break to update what's going on.
Yeah.
So it depends on the situation, because it always can vary the situation. But yeah, we don't totally just have the attitude of we'll cut in when we want to, because we'll just do whatever we want to do. We're trying to be respectful of the viewer, because that's our customer. That's who we're working for. Is our viewer.
So, excuse me. So I've heard of some things. This was earlier this week or last week, where they interrupt some ABC affiliate, and I know you're an ABC affiliate. They interrupted the NBA Finals. I think it was Game 1, and they did it during commercials, and they still got yelled at for it. So, I mean, you could do that, and you'll still get yelled at, saying they're missing something. So
that's a tough situation. It is a tough situation when you're in a big sporting event and you got severe weather. And so that's another good thing that I think needs to be talked out with management as well. And so in some of those circumstances, I've seen different things where you can do a double box where you've got, the severe weather coverage going on, but you can still kind of watch the game in the lower part. I mean, people are going to complain or whatever. And again, it depends on the situation, but it is tough if you're in a live event, sporting event, and it's some sort of championship game. But if you've got a tornado that's verifying that it's causing some major damage and people's lives are on the line, I mean, yeah, you got to cut in for that. But there are some ways that you could, like if you have a sub channel or something like that, air maybe the game on the sub channel, or just make it accessible for the people that aren't being affected to be able to still watch the game.
And does it seem, because I noticed this, because a lot of TV stations do that. They take the programming to sub channels. But I know almost every satellite company, I think every satellite company, Dish and DirecTV, don't have to put the sub channels on there. So
that's right. Yeah.
So there's a problem, because I know they did that in this market here during the flood of 2008. Iowa flood 2008, everything floated away. And our ABC affiliate here did not show the NBA Finals. I don't think they showed 2 of the games because there was flood coverage, where they went wall to wall for days and days and days, and they put the NBA Finals on the sub channel. Well, from what I heard, nobody complained, because nobody probably could see television because they either had no power or their house had floated away. So, I mean,
right, yeah. So yeah, I mean, just being respectful to the viewer, because that's who you're working for is the main thing. But yeah, just having a good game plan for when you have a live event, you have that chance for severe weather.
So yeah, we're almost to the end. So I'm gonna do the shout outs, which I never told you about. I never tell the guests about shout outs. This is where you can shout out anybody, any website, a book, or anything. So you can shout out people at NC State, coworkers, Taylor, who's the intern who's right next to you. I think she's back now.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, Taylor's hanging out here, listening in on.
I think I think you're gonna make her have to respond to all the hater emails that talk about you interrupting programming.
Let her do all the reply back to those emails. Yeah, yeah, she would like that, I'm sure. So yeah. Give you some real world experience. So
So
yeah. Well, yeah, if you want, I'd love to keep up with anyone. I'm on Twitter. It's J Myers Weather. It's the letter J Myers Weather. There is another Jason Myers, I think, meteorologist in Indiana. We haven't met, but we've seen each other on social media. I think he spells it M-E-Y. Taylor was saying. Yeah. I think it's M-E-Y. So it's, I guess, kind of a common name. On Facebook as well, you can, I have personal Facebook, but also my, my meteorologist Facebook page is probably what I keep up with the most, even updating weather. It's just meteorologist Jason Myers, kind of kept it general. And then email me at jmyers, Jmyers at WTBQ.com. So just email, good way to keep up with me as well. But yeah, we have Eric Burke is our weekend meteorologist, and also Michael Estime, our morning meteorologist, and Mark Stitz worked with him. Or Eric just started with us, Eric Burke. Mark was working with us as well, and great guys. John Bernier, Matt DiNardo, great meteorologists at 8 News in Richmond, Virginia. Don't know who's still in Abilene right now, but yeah, some great guys I worked with, and ladies as well. So thanks for having me on, Jeff. Appreciate it. Had a great time.
Okay. So I'll close it out while you can go and do work and whatnot. So,
okay.
But anyway, so anybody can get a hold of me either on Twitter at iwawx or email me at iwawx@gmail.com. Speaking of guests that are coming up, it's going to be somebody next week, we think. It's going to be one of about 5 or 6 people. So we'll see what that is. But my shout out, I want to shout out the NWA annual meeting that's coming up in October, because we somewhat talked about the AMS broadcast conference that was going on in Raleigh. I'm not sure if our guest is going to the NWA annual meeting in Oklahoma City or whatnot. Are you? Or planning to?
No, don't have any plans. I would love to go. Yeah, I'd love to have been at the AMS broadcast conference as well. But no, don't have any conferences coming up for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, because I'm going to be down there in Oklahoma City, so we'll see what that's going to be like. Hopefully, it's not raining then, because I kept thinking the Oklahoma City would float away before October, but it hasn't yet. So, well, I'll shout it out because you can register now, because registration started. Gosh, what's today? Today's the 12th. It started on Wednesday. So you have until mid-September to get the early bird special. I don't know why it's called that, but it's early.
Nice.
So anyway, so I'll shout that out for those that would want to go down to that. Otherwise, we have guests coming. I don't know when they're going to be on and whatnot. It could be anybody. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next week with somebody, we think. So have a great weekend, and hopefully to stay dry or wherever your weather is, and God bless.